The title of this video is Marginal Cost is Equal to Marginal Revenue. It's a very important topic in microeconomics. Marginal cost is equal to marginal revenue. That's a reference to the profit maximization, loss minimization point. This is how companies determine what price to charge and what quantity to produce. What price to charge and what quantity to produce. MR equals MC, marginal revenue equals to marginal cost, the so-called profit maximization, loss minimization point or identity applies to all four market structures. The four market structures are pure competition, the other extreme, pure monopoly, and the two more realistic market structures, monopolistic competition and oligopolistic behavior. So keep in mind that our initial emphasis is going to be on pure competition, but once again, marginal revenue equals marginal cost does indeed determine prices and quantities in the other three market structures. Marginal revenue. What is it? Marginal revenue is equal to the change in total revenue divided by the change in quantity. Another way put, TR2 minus TR1 divided by Q2 minus Q1. So what marginal revenue measures is the following. If our company produces and sells an extra unit and it derives extra total revenue, then marginal revenue is the measurement of that extra added revenue from the last unit sold. There are two ways to define marginal cost. This is the first one. Marginal cost is equal to the change in total cost divided by the change in quantity. Another way put, TC2 minus TC1 divided by Q2 minus Q1. So what exactly is marginal cost? A company produces an extra unit, and what marginal cost does is it measures the added cost to total costs from having produced that last unit. Marginal cost. The second definition. Marginal cost is equal to a change in variable cost divided by a change in quantity. Another way put, VC2 minus VC1 divided by Q2 minus Q1. In this approach, what does marginal cost measure? Well, let's see. A company produces an extra unit, and marginal cost measures that unit's contribution to variable costs. Because obviously, when a company produces the extra unit, this will not affect fixed costs, because fixed costs are fixed. So one way, this way of measuring marginal cost, is to ignore fixed costs. You are right. You're probably thinking, what is MR equals MC? Why has he not talked about directly MR equals MC? You're right. First, I talked about marginal revenue, and then I talked about marginal cost. And now what I'm going to do is put marginal revenue and marginal cost together. But at this point, I want to give you the economic blah, blah, blah. In other words, when talking about marginal revenue equals to marginal cost, how does an economist explain things? He explains it this way, and again, to be honest, in a very blah, blah, blah way. So, MR equals MC, this profit maximization, loss minimization point, or identity, is phrased this way. In order for a company to produce, to maximize profits or minimize losses, it's the same thing, the last unit which a company produces must contribute as much to total revenue and total cost. Once again, the meaning of MR equals MC, or how do we know that MR equals MC has been achieved? When the last unit produced contributes just as much to total revenues as it does to total cost. Well, you're probably perplexed. I will give me a couple more minutes and I'll come back and I'll use examples, simple numerical examples, and I think you'll understand it better. You'll understand this identity better, and you'll better understand its significance. Be patient. Before I deal with the examples, which are hopefully going to clarify MR equals MC, I'm going to have to step back. We're going to have to step back and look at this. Why is P equal to MR equal to D? All right. Now, I refer you back to the beta assignment. And in the beta assignment, and if you didn't do it right, the corrections, you notice that P equals to marginal revenue. The price equals to marginal revenue. All right. Now, this is a phenomenon which occurs in the pure competition market structure. P is equal to MR for the simple fact that in a pure competition market structure, the companies, all of the companies, are obligated, are forced because of economic forces, they're forced to accept the market price. So in our example, the beta assignment example, question 1, the price, the market price was $30. And you notice that marginal revenue was also $30. All right. Again, this is a pure competition phenomenon. Now, I'm going to erase this board. Let's see if I can do it. Come on, off, off, off. Yeah. Okay. I'll erase this. And I will graphically represent okay. So I'm going to be doing two things. I have to prove to you that P is equal to MR, and then I have to prove to you that when P is equal to MR, it is also equal to D, the demand line or curve. And secondly, what I have to do is, graphically show you how this is drawn, how it's shown. And then once we've understood how P is equal to MR is equal to D works and how it's graphically represented, then I'll show you the 3 examples which are about MR equals MC. All right, so let's start with this this identity. All right, let me put a little table together. The P table, the quantity table, the total revenue table, and then the marginal revenue table. Okay, I don't want to get too far with this. So we're dealing with a pure competition market structure where the price is the market price and it is constant. So let's assume a price of $10. 10, 10, 10, 10, 10. Doesn't change. However, the quantity changes. 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. All right? So, the price is constant and 10, and the quantity changes. 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And what I'm going to try to do is establish this equality between price and MR. I'm going to try to prove that price is equal to marginal revenue. So the first calculation is calculating total revenue, which once again is P times Q. So we get 0, 10, 20, 30, and 40. And then we calculate the marginal revenue values. Remember, marginal revenue is the change in TR divided by the change in Q. So, basically we're doing over and over again TR2 minus TR1. So when the first unit is sold, we notice that total revenues go from 0 to 10. So marginal revenue is 10. When the second unit is sold, total revenues go from 10 to 20. So marginal revenue is 10. When the third unit is sold, total revenue goes from 20 to 30. So marginal revenue is 10. And the same thing for unit 4, 5, etc., etc. So what did we just show? That price is equal to marginal revenue. Price is equal to marginal revenue. What I have to do next is show that price, which is equal to marginal revenue, is also equal to, or more precisely, identified with demand. Okay, so let's see now. For that, I'm going to need a diagram, a graph of a pure competition firm. So here's our firm, PC for pure competition. That's the first market structure. Okay. Here we have per unit values, AFC, AVC, ATC, MC, price. And on the x-axis we have quantity. Here we have the average total cost curve. Below it we have the average variable cost curve. This is the shutdown point. It's the lowest AVC value. Here is the liquidation point. It's the lowest ATC value. And going through both points, we have the marginal cost curve. Okay? And in red, going through here, okay, we have the price equals to MR line. But what I want to do next is prove that price, which is equal to marginal revenue, is equal to or identified with D. So in green, let's try it. Now, the notion of D. Well, D represents the demand curve or demand line. But D here is not the market demand curve. This is the firm's, a single firm's demand curve, or line in this case. All right. So how can we identify P, which is equal to MR, to D? Well, again, the notion of D, what is it? D is made up of this column, the price column, and the quantity column. So if we graph the demand schedule, right? I've used this term before in class. The P column and the Q column together are referred to as the demand schedule. And together, if we plot these values, the P values and the appropriate quantity values, what we get is the demand curve. So let's plot the first one. The price is 10. Let's assume this is 10. And the quantity is 0. So where are we? We're right here. Next one. The price is 10 and the quantity is 1. So where are we? Right here. Third one. The price is still 10 because in pure competition the market price is the applicable price, and it is always constant. So it's 10 and 2 units. So where are we? We're here. This is 2 units, right? 1, 2, and the price is still 10. The next one, price is 10, 3 units. Price is 10, 3 units. Yeah, this would be 3 units right here. And then the last one, or, well, not the last one in our example, price is 10, and we have four units. So we're here, right? So we're right there. So what we have plotted is this demand schedule. And if we connect the dots, well, what do we get if we connect the dots? Let's say we keep going. Unit 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 100, etc. What do we get? We get a demand line that looks like this. Yeah? So, price is equal to marginal revenue, which in turn is equal to demand, or more precisely, is identified with demand. And you noticed that the demand curve for a typical, well, for that matter, for all of the pure competition firms is totally elastic. Totally elastic. It has a price elasticity of demand which is equal to negative infinity. Perfectly elastic. Not inelastic. Perfectly inelastic is vertical to the x-axis. Okay, so hopefully this has been understood. Very important. P is equal to MR, marginal revenue, which in turn is equal to demand, the demand line. They're all represented by the same graphical tool, straight line. All right, now I'm going to turn my attention to 3 examples about MR and MC, and hopefully it'll clarify things up. Now, let's go to the 3 examples that I've been promising you. These 3 examples are designed to explain to you, more precisely, I hope, this identity, this equation of MR equals MC, which is the profit maximization, loss minimization point. So again, marginal revenue is equal to MC, is referred to as the profit maximization, loss minimization identity. And what it does is it helps companies to determine P and Q, to determine the right price to charge, the correct number of units to produce in order to, in order for the company to maximize profits, or in a loss situation, to minimize losses. So MR equals MC is used to determine price and quantity. Except there's an exception. And that exception is in the pure competition market. In other words, our market, the market that I'm talking about. Because in the pure competition market, each company is not a price maker. Each company is a price taker. Each company in the pure competition market structure takes its price from the market. It's the market in pure competition that determines the market price, and every company in that market takes the price and calls it its own, and it applies it to its own cost structure. Another way put, in the pure competition market structure, MR equals MC will only serve to determine the correct quantity to produce. The price, again, is given by the market. Well, having said all that, let's go to a diagram. So here's our pure competition firm. All right, we're not talking about the market now, we're talking about a pure competition firm. And all that we need is, well, this would be the per unit designation, and this is the quantity designation. Except Q, quantity, in this diagram does not apply to the market quantity. It applies to the production of our individual firm. Okay, so let's do it this way. Marginal revenue. Why is it straight? Well, a couple of minutes ago, well, more than a couple of minutes ago, I explained why the marginal revenue line is a straight line and that it is equal to the price line. In other words, P equals to MR. And here is the marginal cost curve. That's the way we draw it. All right. Now, where should our firm produce? Our firm should produce at this point here. Why? Because at this point here, MR equals to MC. At this point, marginal revenue equals to marginal cost. To use the economic jargon, the last unit produced brought about the same identical contribution to TC and TR. Well, that's kind of difficult, I think, to figure out what it means. Anyway, so that's the profit maximization, loss minimization point. And that point tells us that our firm should be producing this amount, Q, and we'll put an asterisk here. All right. So MR equals MC tells us firm whatever. If you want to maximize profits, and you do, that's how much you have to produce. Or if you want to minimize losses, which you do in a loss situation, this is how many units you should produce. And don't worry about the price, because the price is already given. It's given by the market, the marketplace. Right? That's why this horizontal MR line, which also represents the price line. Okay, so that's where we start. We have identified how many units our company should produce, Q asterisk. I'm going to switch colors. However, our company is not producing that many units. Our company is producing right there. So let's call this Q1. All right, so is our company, and we'll assume that we're dealing with a profit situation. So let me phrase the question this way. Is, by producing at Q1, is our company maximizing profits? The answer is no. It is not. Well, why not? Or how do we know that we should produce more? Well, because the graph tells us. Well, I'm not sure that's good enough. So let's make up some numbers. All right? All right. MR, marginal revenue. Marginal revenue on the graph is where? It's right here. Yeah? And where's marginal cost? Well, it's right here. So this is MR and this is MC. So which is larger? Which is bigger? MR, right? So MR is 8. Yeah, MR is $8. And MC, well, it's I don't know, I'm just making these numbers up. Let's say it's 6. So MC is $6. Okay, so MR, $8, is greater than MC, $6. All right. Now, let me phrase a question here. The question is, should our firm produce the extra unit? Question mark. Should our firm produce the extra unit? We're assuming that MR, $8, and MC, $6, applies to the next unit produced. Okay, so should our firm produce the extra unit? Okay, let's see. If, let's say we refers to the company, if we produce the extra unit, check, check, check. Well, what's going to happen if we produce the extra unit? Well, if we produce the extra unit, then well, let's look at it from the total revenue side. If we produce the extra unit, then total revenue will go up or down? Well, it's going to go up. It's going to go up by how much? It's going to go up by $8. Total revenue is going to go up by $8. Why? Well, because we've sold this extra unit. And what does MR measure? It measures the last unit contribution to total revenue. So we sold the extra unit and we get $8 extra. So MR is equal to 8. Total revenues went up by an extra $8. Again, why does TR go up by 8? Because that's the value of marginal revenue. It's given to us, or I made it up, right? $8. Now we cannot discount, we cannot ignore the other part of this analysis, and that's total cost. Because if we produce and sell this extra unit, this will affect total revenues. You just saw total revenues went up by $8. It will also affect total cost. So by producing this extra unit, total cost increased by $6. Why $6? Because that's the value that we assign to marginal cost. So marginal cost is $6. So by producing this extra unit, in other words, by getting closer to MR equals MC, well, what's happened here? Total revenues went up by 8. Total costs went up by 6. So what happened to profit? Again, we're assuming this is a profit situation. So what happened to profit? Profit went up by how much? By $2. Why $2? Because that's the difference between marginal revenue and marginal cost. That's the difference between total revenue and total cost. Well, the increase in total revenue and the increase in total cost. So whenever MR is bigger than MC, should we produce the extra unit? The answer is yes. All right, example 2. In example 2, we have, marginal cost greater than marginal revenue. All right, let me do an identical analysis here. So again, our pure competition firm. Okay. Per unit values on the y-axis, and the x-axis quantity. Again, this quantity only applies to our firm. This is not the market quantity. We have marginal revenue, the marginal revenue line, like so, which you already know is equal to price, which in turn is equal to demand, and the supply curve, which looks like this, and the magic point, there it is. This is the profit maximization, loss minimization point. MR equals to MC. So, how many units should our pure competition firm produce? These many units, because MR equals MC. Cannot do any better. Let me change colors. Well, the firm, I guess, knows where to produce, right there. But let's assume that our firm does not produce Q asterisk. Instead, it produces this much. So let's call this Q. Let's call this Q1. All right. So what do we notice? We notice that marginal cost is right here, and marginal revenue is right there. So marginal cost is higher than marginal revenue. And like we did with the previous example, let's give some hypothetical values to both MR and MC. So marginal cost, marginal revenue. Let's say marginal cost is 10 and marginal revenue is 9. Marginal cost 10 is greater than marginal revenue 9. Okay? So, well, was it a good idea for the company to overproduce? Well, no. So let me phrase the question to show you why the firm's production level here is too high. So let me phrase it this way. Should our firm lower production by 1 unit, by 1 unit. We're assuming that these values, MC is equal to 10 and MR equals to 9, are representative of this unit. Okay, so that's a question, right? Should our firm lower production by 1 unit? So, if our firm lowers production by 1 unit, 3 dots, then, well, what's going to happen to TR? Well, TR, since the unit is not produced or taken away from production, TR is going to drop by, it's going to decrease by, well, $9. Why? Well, because that's the value of marginal revenue. Well, okay, that's not good, but again, that's not the entire picture, right? We have to look at the cost side. So by not producing that unit, or by lowering production by 1 unit, what would happen to total costs? Well, they would drop. They would decrease. By how much? By 10. Why 10? Because that is the value of marginal cost. All right, so what is the net effect of this not producing this 1 extra unit, or lowering production by 1 unit? Well, the net effect is, well, let's see. Total revenues drop by $9 or $9 million or whatever, by 9. Well, that's not good. But again, we have to look at the cost side. And what do we see on the cost side? We see that the total costs decrease by more than the decrease in TR. So what happens to profit? And we're assuming this is a profit situation. Does profit go up or down if TR goes down by 9 and at the same time TC goes down by 10, by more? Well, profit goes up by 1. And that is good. 1 cent, $1, $1 million. That's good. Profit maximization. So whenever MC is greater than MR, what do? Should we produce that unit? No, don't produce it. You are overproducing by not producing it, by eliminating it from your production process. You are either increasing profits, or in a loss situation, you're decreasing losses. Okay, example 3. Well, no, that's not the right caption, is it? I'm going to correct it here. So we're not dealing with MR greater than MC. We've already done it. That was our first example. So let me erase this. What we're dealing with is MR is equal to MC. Well, that should not be too difficult, right? MR, MC, MR is equal to MC. We are producing at Q asterisk. We are not overproducing. We are not underproducing. We're producing the right amount. So, should we produce more? Should we produce less? No. Keep your production at this level. Why? Because if you're producing at MR equals MC, you are either maximizing profits, if it's a profit situation, or in a loss situation, you are minimizing your losses. And that is the name of the game. Okay, so let's summarize this MR-MC stuff, okay? All right. If MR is greater than MC, should we produce the extra unit? If MR is greater than MC, do we produce that extra unit? Yes, because if we produce the extra unit, both total revenues and total costs will go up, but total revenues will go up higher than total costs. We're going to be maximizing profits or minimizing losses. If marginal cost is greater than marginal revenue? Do we produce the extra unit? Answer, no. If marginal cost is greater than marginal revenue, we do not produce the extra unit. Because if we produce the extra unit, we would be increasing total costs more than our total revenues. So with a marginal cost greater than marginal revenue situation, we should decrease production. We should always aim towards MR equals MC. So last one. If MR equals to MC, if that last unit produced contributed just as much to total revenues as it did to total costs, well, then we have achieved the profit maximization, loss minimization. This last time around, this blah, 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 it did make sense, right? I like to think so. Anyway, so if MR equals M, if MR is equal to MC, should we produce more? Should we produce less? No, we should be producing the same amount. No more and no less. Produce whatever you're producing, because MR is equal to MC.